It's Tuesday, and that means it's time for another top 10 video. Unfortunately, I won't be doing a top 10 video this week. It will be a top 7 video, and that's because I'll be covering my top 7 Unearthed Arcana subclasses that I want to see that have been released in the past that I would like to see published and become a viable, updated subclass available to us going forward. If you want to know what the rules are and where I came up with all these numbers, stay tuned. What's up, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and if you want to know what I'm talking about, I made a cutoff decision that from everything from 2018 prior is what I'm looking at for this video. So I think that stuff that was published in 2019 and obviously through to where we are in 2020 still stands a very good chance of being published in a future sourcebook. That's the stuff we saw with Xanathars, where stuff was being released pretty consistently, and that was playtest for what was going to end up in the final book. Just so you know, before we started getting like all the new subclass stuff towards the latter half of 2019, we really only had 3 Unearthed Arcana pretty much through the entirety of 2019. That was basically the Artificer, or Artificer, however you want to pronounce it, and that was pretty much it. So I'm saying 2018 prior, some of these were going back to like 2016, I think possibly even before. Stuff that was released in Unearthed Arcana that has not come out since. Some of those even got multiple reprints or multiple Unearthed Arcanas and never made a final version. So that was my cutoff for this video. So hopefully that makes sense. And I really was trying to get it to 10, but I was stretching it. You know, even getting to 7 was a lot. If I was going to pull out 3 more subclasses, I would just be throwing them in there to fill out the numbers, and I actually wouldn't care about the last 3 at all, so it didn't really make sense to me, and I hope you can understand that. Also, real quick, before we jump into number 10, if you have suggestions for future top 10 videos you'd like me to do, leave them in the description, and I'll add them to my ongoing list. Let's jump into the video. Number 7. So number 7 is the Treachery Paladin. This was, and you'll see this probably with a lot of them, this was something that was going to be, it was kind of released as part of the, what I'm going to call the Xanathar's push, which was get a whole bunch of subclasses out there for people to subtest, or to playtest and see what sticks. So if we jump over here, you can see that this was released on the 19th of December, 2016. And this was actually paired with the Conquest Paladin, which is something we did actually get published in Xanathars. But this was a Treachery Paladin, which was kind of in a similar vibe to the Conquest one in a way, and I think that may be possibly why it didn't get published. But it says right here, Oath of Treachery is an option for a paladin who has strayed from another sacred oath or has rejected the traditional paladin life. This option exists alongside the Oathbreaker. So this was cool because this was a concept where Conquest doesn't necessarily mean that. This is sort of, and they even have an ability that's called Blackguard Defense. So it is kind of like a Blackguard. For those who don't know, in older editions, a Blackguard was basically an anti-paladin or an evil paladin. And that was always a really cool concept to me, so I like this. So let's take a look real quick. Tenets of Treachery, they don't actually spell them out here, but what we'll go through, we're going to do this for each class, which works out that it's only 7 because we're going to be talking about a lot of it here. So your oath spells: Charm Person, Expeditious Retreat, Invisibility, Mirror Image, Gaseous Form, Haste, Confusion, Greater Invisibility, Dominate Person, and Pass Wall, which is actually really cool. 2 Channel Divinity options at level 3. Conjure Duplicate. This is pretty much just like the Treachery or the Trickery domain, but I think it's infinitely better for a paladin, and I'll tell you why. As an action, you create a visual illusion of yourself that lasts for a minute or until you lose concentration. The illusion appears in a non-occupied space you can see within 30 feet of you. Looks exactly like you. It's silent, your size, and substantial. Doesn't occupy the space. It's a bonus action on your turn. You can move it up to 30 feet to a space you can see, but it has to be within 120 feet. For the duration, you can cast spells as though you are in your illusion's space, but you must use your own senses. Additionally, when both you and your illusion are within 5 feet of a creature that can see the illusion, you have advantage on attack rolls against that creature, given how uncanny the illusion is. And that's why this is good on this class and horrible on the Trickery Domain Cleric, because if you're that ability where you can put it next to you and get advantage, You are a paladin. You can divine smite. You are one of the kings alongside the rogue of single target damage. So the ability to get advantage and possibly to get a crit and then decide to smite on top of that, doubling all those dice, means you can deal ridiculous amounts of damage in a very short period of time. And for you, this is potentially once per short rest, advantage on all your attacks for a minute. Don't forget that on top of this, you also are going to get at level 6 and beyond your charisma modifier added to all of your saving throws, one of those being Constitution, which is something you can use to keep concentration up on your duplicate, something making you even better at maintaining it than a Treachery Domain Cleric. The other part of it is you can use this to cast spells from your illusion space, but more often than not all the time though, but more often than not, a paladin typically doesn't cast spells. You're usually using, again, I'm saying this up front, not all the time. Sometimes you do use your slots a lot of the time for smites, but you can use the duplicate to do ranged healing, right? If you need to do cure wounds or revivify or something, you can use that. So that has a lot of benefit. That part of it does still work for the cleric, but the advantage on attacks fits a paladin more. Or you can use it for Poison Strike as a bonus action. You touch a weapon or piece of ammunition, which is nice because it works on ranged. Lasts for a minute. The next time you hit a target with an attack using that weapon, it takes poison damage immediately after the attack. The poison damage equals 2d10 plus your paladin level, or a flat 20 plus your paladin level if you have advantage on the attack roll, which you could have advantage on the attack. Oh, you couldn't actually. Let me rephrase. You couldn't have that because you only ever get one channel divinity. So this also could be an interesting multi-class Treachery Domain Treachery Paladin. That could be an interesting mix. Or I could like the idea of this kind of illusion party, right, where you do have a Treachery Domain Cleric, Treachery Paladin, maybe an Illusion Wizard, and you're kind of like an illusion group. Then at level 7, you get the Aura of Treachery, which has 2 features. Cull the Herd, you have advantage on melee attack rolls against any creature that has has one or more of its allies within 5 feet. So if there's a whole bunch of people on you, you actually get advantage, which could trigger the Poison Strike. And then Treacherous Strike, if a creature within 5 feet of you misses with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to reroll the attack against a creature of your choice that is also within 5 feet of the attacker. This ability fails and is wasted if the attacker is immune to being charmed. You can use this ability 3 times. You regain expended uses when you finish a short or long rest, which is nice. This was also in a concept where Wizards was playing with the idea of everything you can use a thing 3 times. There were a lot of classes that had this in the playtest. Then it was in Blackguard's Defense. It was Blackguard's Escape. Immediately after you're hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to turn invisible and teleport up to 60 feet to a spot you can see. You remain invisible until the end of your next turn, until you attack, deal damage, or force a creature to make a saving throw. Once you use this feature, you can use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So again, you could use this time to heal because you don't have to deal an attack or deal damage or force a creature to make a saving throw. You could use Lay on Hands, you could heal yourself, whatever the case may be, but you remain invisible for that period of time, and this comes back on a short rest. And lastly, your kind of Paladin Uber ability, Icon of Deceit. As an action, you can magically become an Avatar of Deceit, gaining one of the following benefits for a minute. You are invisible, period, for 1 minute. If a creature damages you on its turn, it must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw equal to your spell save DC, or you control its next action, provided that you aren't incapacitated when it takes the action. A creature automatically succeeds on the save if it's immune to being charmed. And if you have advantage on an attack roll, which you will always have because you are invisible, you gain a bonus to its damage equal to your Paladin level. So you're invisible, therefore you should have advantage on attack rolls against enemy creatures that can't see you. You'll have a plus 20 to your damage, and that's once per long rest. So I really like this thing. I can kind of see why it didn't make it into it. Probably just because like the idea of evil classes or like the Oathbreaker, that kind of thing, isn't technically something most people are going to play. So I could imagine that the idea of the Conquest Paladin and the Redemption Paladin made it into Xanathars because those are going to have more legs behind them. More people are going to want to play those classes than they're going to want to play a Treachery Paladin. I still think it's cool, though, and I would love, like, an evil classes or, like, a ne'er-do-well source book. I think that would be really cool, but I don't think we're going to get it. Number 6. Let us go back to February 2017 to look at the Stone Sorcery Sorcerer. This Sorcerer book, or Unearthed Arcana, was really cool, and what was kind of lame is there were 4 different Sorcerer subclasses, and only one of them made it into Xanathar's from this list. The other 3 were thrown out. So, I like the Stone Sorcery one. I like the concept of elemental sorcerers was sort of a concept here, right? You had a fire one, a water one. I think it's Phoenix, Sea, and Stone, but this one's specifically tied to the magic of elemental earth, and it's really the closest thing you're going to get to being an earthbender, because let's be honest, we know where 4 elements monk stands. So let's take a look at what you get for this. It also has a lot of like metal concepts too, so like metal bending, if you think about it that way. 1, you get proficiency with shields, simple weapons, and martial weapons. More often than not, without finagling through multi-classing or feats, you're not going to get access to it. But it's nice. It doesn't give you proficiency with armor, just shields. But even still, that's a +2 AC, and the weapons comes in later. So you also get metal magic. When your spellcasting feature lets you learn a sorcerer spell of 1st level or higher, you can select the spell from the following spell lists in addition to the sorcerer spell list. You must otherwise obey all restrictions, blah, blah, blah. 1st level, you can choose from Compelled Duel, Searing Smite, Thunderous Smite, or Wrathful Smite. It's basically paladin spells. 2nd level is Branding Smite, Magic Weapon. 3rd is Blinding Smite and Elemental Weapon. And 4th is Staggering Smite. I think that this would go away if this were published now. I think they'd toss this in favor of the concept of what they've kind of been rolling out lately, which is each sorcerer subclass will get 2 kind of auto-prepared spells per level, which seems to be what they're doing. But it was interesting. They were giving you basically an expanded spell list similar to a warlock, so that you could have these kind of fighting metal, weapon-based spells. Also at level 1, you got Stone's Durability. Your hit point maximum increases by 1, and you regain an additional hit point each level in the class. And as an action, you gain a base AC of 13 plus your Constitution modifier if you aren't wearing armor and your skin assumes a stony appearance. This effect lasts until you end it as a bonus action, you are incapacitated, or you don armor other than a shield. So it's interesting that this isn't just an always-on thing because there is no downside to it. But if you are incapacitated, like when you are sleeping, you lose it. But then when you wake up, you'll have to use an action to activate it. But it works with a shield, so you're going to probably want to have a decent constitution. I think sorcerers get constitution saving throws, or maybe that's warlocks. But either way, it's going to be decent. You have a close to a mage armor, right, with a 13 plus your con mod and then the shield on top of it, plus access to the shield spell, so you could have a decent AC going here. At 6th level, you have Stone Aegis. As a bonus action, you can grant an Aegis to 1 allied creature you can see within 60 feet. This Aegis is a dim gray aura of earth magic that protects the target. Any bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage they take, and this is probably why this wasn't published, is reduced by 2 plus your sorcerer level divided by 4. This effect lasts for 1 minute until you use it again or you're incapacitated. In addition, when a creature you can see within 60 feet of you hits the protected target with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 5 feet of the attacker. You can teleport only if you and the attacker are on the same surface. And then you can also make 1 melee attack against the attacker. If it hits, it deals an extra d10 force damage that goes up to 2d10 at 11th level and 3d10 at 17th level. So that is kind of weird. The fact that it's 2 plus your sorcerer level divided by 4, right? So order of operations is going to tell us we're going to take our sorcerer level, divide it by 4, and then add 2. Assuming that this is to... It doesn't tell you whether you round up or down. I know the rule is you typically round down. So if you activate this ability at level 6, it's going to basically be 2, maybe 3 reduction. So if we look at it at level 20, and again, we follow order of operations, it's going to be 20 divided by 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7, so it will reduce the damage by 7. That is way too complicated for no reason. So I would just say reduce it by your proficiency bonus. You'll end up having 1 less. At 20 it would be 7, but that's only at level 20, because at level 19 and below it would be 6. And if you just you reduce the damage by your proficiency bonus, that's a nice, simple number that scales up very easily and doesn't require any math or knowledge of PEMDAS. Then at 14, your mastery over earth magic allows you to add the force elemental earth to your spells. When you cast a spell that deals damage, any spell that deals damage, choose 1 creature damaged by the spell on the round you cast it. That creature takes extra force damage equal to half your sorcerer level. It can only be used once per casting of a spell. So I don't particularly like that. I wouldn't say once per casting of the spell, because that means if it's a persistent spell that lasts multiple turns, it only deals the damage 1 time, because the spell has been cast once and you do it 1 time. I'd say a creature can be, you choose 1 creature, they can be only affected by this no more than once on a turn. So if I cast, Flaming Sphere, and I hit them on the next turn, I can still deal the extra damage. And then at 18th, when you use your Stone's Aegis from level 6 to protect your ally, you can choose up to 3 creatures to gain its benefit, which is nice. I like this, again, in theory a lot, and I like the concept of the stone magic and the idea of protecting somebody with earth magic and you having all this cool stuff. But I think it falls flat a lot on feeling like true earth magic, and I don't know, I like it a lot in concept, and it's my list, so that's why I want it on here. But I would love to revamp it and then release it. Also, let me know, guys, if you want. I might try to do a fixing video on all of these and see what I think, if they need to be fixed, how to adjust them so that they could be a viable subclass for people to use now. Number 5. For number 5, we're going to go back to 2016 for the Protection Domain Cleric. So I think the reason this one didn't make it is it kind of felt similar and didn't really... Some of the stuff felt like it pulled from other subclasses that exist already. But let's take a look. So it says, a purview of deities who charge their followers to shield the weak from the strong. And it gives a bunch of examples here. Some of these are also listed again in Player's Handbook ones as well, right? Ilmater, Tyr, Torm, Bahamut, Athena, Odin, yada, yada, yada. So what do you get? Spells: Compelled Dual, protection from evil and good. Aid, protection from poison. Protection from energy slow. Guardian of Faith, Odaluk's Resilient Sphere, Anti-Life Shell, and Wall of Force. So first of all, those domain spells are awesome, because some of those clerics don't ever have access to, like Odaluk's Resilient Sphere. I don't think they get Anti-Life Shell. I think that's a druid only. Wall of Force is an amazing spell, especially if it's always prepared for you. You're never going to have a scenario where you don't want to have Wall of Force just in your back pocket. At first level, you're going to get a bonus proficiency with heavy armor. That's always nice. Shield of the Faithful, also at level 1. When a creature attacks a target other than you within 5 feet of it, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the roll. To do so, you must be able to see both the attacker and the target. You must interpose an arm, a shield, or some other part of yourself to try to throw the attack off the target. So the reason I think that this didn't do so well is because that is essentially the protection fighting style that fighters, paladins get access to, that is like a level 2 choice they can make amongst other ones, and this is something granted to you at level 1. I mean, it's not bad, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like you should probably have something else or something more to it. Granted, it is an always-on thing that you can do all the time, but I don't know, the fact that it just duplicates a fighting style seems a little funky to me. At level 2, you get Radiant Defense. As an action, you channel Blessed Energy into an ally you can see within 30 feet of you. The first time that ally is hit by an attack within the next minute, the attacker takes radiant damage equal to 2d10 plus your cleric level. So that's really cool. This is an interesting concept. It kind of borrows from the the light domain cleric. So the light domain cleric can present their holy symbol and do like 2d10 plus their cleric level in damage, I think, to all enemies that they choose within 30 feet, but they have to make a saving throw. Rather than that happening here, when you're an ally gets hit, you just deal the damage to them. And again, it's your channel divinity. You get this back on a short rest, and you get up to 3 at high levels. At level 6, you get Blessed Healer. When you cast a spell with a spell slot and it restores hit points to any creature other than you this turn, you regain hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. So this is something that I think life domain clerics get at level 1, I think. Let's do a real quick check on D&D Beyond. That's DBD. But I thought for the life cleric it also applies to just you, or it applies to you as well. So, Disciple of Life. Whenever you use a spell of first level or higher to restore hit points to a creature, that creature gains hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. So, this is essentially the level 1 ability that life domain clerics get, but you get it at level 6, and it doesn't apply to you. So that just seems kind of funky, so that's probably right. Divine Strike, same for all clerics, but this is a d8 radiant damage at 8 and 14. And then Indomitable Defense at 17. You gain resistance to 2 damages of your choice from the following list: bludgeoning, necrotic, piercing, radiant, and slashing. Whenever you finish a short or long rest, you can change the damage types you choose. As an action, you can temporarily give up this resistance and transfer it to one creature you touch. The creature keeps the resistance until the end of your next short or long rest, or until you transfer it back to yourself as a bonus action. So that's really cool. I like the concept of that. It's resistance to 2 damage types. And I mean, honestly, necrotic and radiant aren't too common, but having resistance to either bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing just always, and you can swap it and give it to somebody else, is pretty cool, especially given the fact that you're going to have the Shield of the Faithful from level 1, and you've got a lot of other cool things going for you. But I think the reason this class didn't make it published is because it just seems to borrow from so many other things, and it doesn't really feel like it's truly unique and its own. And that's probably why, because that was a concept Wizards had when they made 5th edition. They wanted to make all of these classes and subclasses feel distinctly unique from one another, so that you're not trying to just make subclasses to make subclasses. So I think the fact that the level 1 ability is a fighting style, the level 6 ability is a lesser version of the life cleric's level 1 ability, I think that's probably why. I still like it. I think there's a case to be made to tweak and alter a few of these things to be, maybe you could do this thing where it heals them. Maybe it gives them temporary hit points instead of healing them extra. It adds 2 plus the spell's level in temporary hit points. That could be cool. That could be something different, right? Again, like I said, if you want me to try to fix these in the future, let me know. Number 4. Back to 2016 again. This time, for number 5, we're talking about the Sharpshooter Fighter. Now, I think the Sharpshooter Fighter got kind of shafted in that there were 4 fighter subclasses released in this Unearthed Arcana, and the other 3 made it, and the Sharpshooter didn't. It is a very niche group, right? It is a ranged shooting type, with, what does it say? An excellent sniper, an eagle-eye scout, and the master of ranged combat. So at level 3, you get Steady Aim. As a bonus action on your turn, you can take careful aim at a creature you can see that is within range of the ranged weapon you're wielding. Until the end of this turn, your ranged attacks with that weapon gain the following 2 benefits. You ignore 1/2 and 3/4 cover. On a hit, the weapon deals additional damage to the target equal to 2 plus half your fighter level. You can use this feature 3 times, and you get them back when you finish a short or long rest. Again, like I was saying, this is when they were kind of teasing the concept of something happens, you get it 3 times, and then it recharges. One thing I like about the Sharpshooter Fighter is it doesn't pigeonhole you into short bows and long bows like Arcane Archer does. Because like if you wanted to wield a crossbow, Arcane Archer doesn't work with that for some stupid reason. But this would work if you wanted to be a crossbow wielder. So that's cool. And I think the concept of aiming is always something I always liked, right? As someone who does archery and has done archery for my whole life. There's something to be said for when you're aiming, but then again, you can only hold the bow's draw length for so long before you kind of start to waver. But I always liked that concept of like called shots and things, and this isn't too bad. It gives you part of the benefit of, I think, Sharpshooter, ignoring the 1/2 and 3/4 cover. I think Sharpshooter lets you do that. And then just a bonus extra damage, right? 2 plus half your fighter level. So at most, it's going to be 12 extra damage. But that's not bad. At 7th level, you get Careful Eyes. You can use the Search action as a bonus action. This doesn't come up too often, but that's if you're trying to do it in combat. But you also gain proficiency in Perception, Investigation, or Survival. You get to pick. A nice little flavorful ability at 7. At 10, you get Close Quarter Shooting. Making a ranged attack roll within 5 feet of an enemy doesn't impose disadvantage on your roll. That's awesome if you're going to focus yourself hardcore in being an archer or a ranged fighter. That makes a big benefit for you. In addition, if you hit a creature within 5 feet of you with a ranged attack on your turn, they can't take reactions until the end of this turn. So not only do you take away one of the biggest disadvantages of being a ranged fighter, you also give you a little bit of benefit on top of that. At 15, you get Rapid Strike. You can trade accuracy for Swift Strikes. If you have advantage on a weapon attack against a target on your turn, you can forego that advantage to immediately make an additional attack against the same target as a bonus action. I really like that kind of ability. My only potential problem with that is the Sharpshooter Fighter does not have the ability to generate their own advantage without doing something like hiding or something like that. Not that that's wrong, but for example, I think a Samurai Fighter can do this, but a Samurai Fighter has the fighting spirit, which gives them advantage, so they can kind of get that advantage. And then lastly, Snapshot at 18. If you take the attack action on your first turn of combat, you can make one additional ranged attack as part of that action, which is awesome because this could put you at a pretty ridiculous number of attacks depending on how things work. I really like this. I don't know why this didn't get published, honestly. The only thing I can think of is because it's so focused on being, it just, you shoot and you shoot good. But in theory, like a champion fighter is no different, right? They're just good at critting in theory, right? And an arcane archer is even more focused because you have to be bow and longbow, but you get a couple additional options in your arcane shots. But I think that this was pretty cool. I kind of like this concept. I think you could definitely have some fun comboing this with a rogue, depending on how, like a scout rogue sharpshooter mix. I think that could be really fun. They both kind of fill that scout sniper role. I think that could be a lot of fun. So I really don't have any good reason why this didn't make it, and I'd probably almost leave it as it is if I was going to put it in the game. Number 3. We're heading back to February of 2017 for number 3, and we're looking at the Phoenix Sorcerer subclass. I really like this, and if you know anything about the homebrew games that I'm running on my channel, on my Twitch channel, I have someone playing a Phoenix Sorcerer, and she has been playing one for quite a while. I recognized after a little while that some of this stuff could be tweaked to be a little bit better, but so far, she's been having a lot of fun with it, and we've incorporated my Sorcerer 2.0 fixes to improve this, to make it viable. If you'd like to see a separate video just on this, I can, but let's keep going. So what do you get at level 1? You get Ignite. As an action, you can magically ignite a flammable object you touch with your hand, an object such as a torch, piece of tinder, or a hem of drape, so you can just light stuff on fire. You also get Mantle of Flame. This is one of your big abilities. As a bonus action, you can magically wreathe yourself in swirling fire as your eyes glow with hot coals, or glow like hot coals. For 1 minute, you gain the following benefits. You shed bright light in a 30-foot radius and dim light for another 30 feet. Any creature takes fire damage equal to your charisma modifier if it hits you with a melee attack from within 5 feet, or if it touches you. And whenever you roll fire damage on your turn, the roll gains a bonus equal to your charisma modifier. Once you use this feature, you can't use it until you finish a long rest. So one thing I do like is it's whenever you roll fire damage. So in theory, you roll like a Scorching Ray. When you roll a Scorching Ray, you roll 2d6 for the first ray, 2d6 for the second ray. Each one of those rays gets charisma modifier in damage. At 6th level, you get the Phoenix Spark. If you are reduced to 0 hit points, you can use your reaction to draw on the Spark of the Phoenix. You're instead reduced to 1 hit point, and each creature within 10 feet of you takes fire damage equal to half your sorcerer level plus your charisma modifier. If you use this feature while under the effects of your Mantle of Flame, this feature instead deals fire damage equal to your sorcerer level plus double your charisma modifier, and your Mantle of Flame immediately ends. Once you use this feature, you can't use it until you finish a long rest. At 14, you get Nourishing Fire. When you expend a spell slot to cast a spell that includes a fire damage roll, you regain hit points equal to the spell slot level plus your charisma modifier. And lastly, at 18, you get Form of the Phoenix. While under the effects of your Mantle of Flame feature, you gain additional benefits. You have a fly speed of 40 feet and can hover. You have resistance to all damage. And if you use your Phoenix Spark ability, it deals an extra 20 damage to each creature. I don't know why this didn't make it in. I have some fixes to tweak things a little bit, but it's not too much, right? Probably the biggest downside is Mantle of Flame is one of your best abilities, and it's once per long rest. So if you get into multiple combats, you need to be wary of when you activate it. But, you know, I have some ideas on how to fix that. I'm not going to bog this video down with that. But a lot of people love fire damage, right? It's probably one of the most used damages. It has the most different spells in 5th edition. Phoenixes are really cool. Everybody loves those. And this is a fire damaging Phoenix Sorcerer. Why didn't this make it into a published source? I have no idea. But, like, they went with Favored Soul over Phoenix Sorcerer. I thought this was, like, a shoo-in for sure. But this was in, February of 2017 this was released. And the other thing in this article was the Favored Soul, and that made it into Xanathar's, and this didn't. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to see this. But I would love to. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. Number 2. For number 2, let us head back to December of 2016 for the Circle of Twilight Druid. This actually came out with the Circle of Dreams and the Circle of Shepherd in the same Unearthed Arcana. Dreams and Shepherd made it into Xanathar's, as did this option for known beast shapes, but the Circle of Twilight didn't. And I thought it was really cool. It was a different concept, so let's take a look. So at level 2, you get Harvest's Scythe. Similar to how a Circle of Dreams Druid has a pool of healing, you have a pool, but yours is for damage. You have a pool of energy represented by a number of d10s equal to your Druid level. When you roll damage for a spell, you can increase the damage by spending dice from your pool. You can spend a number of dice equal to half your Druid level or less. Roll the dice spent and add them to the damage as necrotic damage. If you kill one or more hostile creatures with a spell augmented in this way, you or an ally of your choice that you can see within 30 feet regains 2 hit points per die spent to increase the spell's damage, or 5 hit points per die if at least one of the slain creatures was undead. You regain your expended dice when you finish a long rest. So that's a really cool concept, right? The Circle of Twilight was about, like, exterminating undead creatures. That's like a big concept for a lot of different things. So I thought that would be really cool. So if I'm level 2, right, I can spend half my Druid level or less. So I can spend 1 d10. So if I cast at level 2, I don't know, what's a first level damage? A Thunder Wave, right? And I cast Thunder Wave, and then I add 1 d10 necrotic damage to my Thunder Wave, and I kill a creature, then I can heal either myself or an ally within 30 feet for 2 hit points. If I use that to kill an undead creature, I can heal him for 5. That's really cool, and that obviously just scales up. At level 6, you get Speech Beyond the Grave. Using this feature, you can cast Speak with Dead without material components, and you understand what the target of this casting is saying. And you understand what the target of this casting says. It can understand your questions even if you don't share a language or it is not intelligent enough to speak. Once you use this feature, you can use it once per. You can get it back on a short or long rest. So a freebie Speak with Dead that works regardless of what they speak is awesome. It fits the concept of dealing with death and that kind of thing. At 10, you get Watcher at the Threshold. You have resistance to necrotic and radiant damage. In addition, while you aren't incapacitated, and any ally within 30 feet of you has advantage on death saves, no one's going to not want to have you in the party when you can kill things easier and heal from it. You can do the cool recon stuff from Speak with Dead, and everybody's going to be more survivable when it most counts when they're dying with having you around. And then at 14, you get Paths of the Dead. Using this feature, you can cast Etherealness. Once this spell ends, you can't cast this feature. Can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. That one felt a little bit out of place, the Etherealness, but I will say I like this better than the fact that like the Raven Queen Warlock that never made it in was about a Warlock who the Raven Queen hates undead, but they give you your highest level ability for the Raven Queen Warlock gives you the ability to create a zombie. Like, that makes no sense. So kudos to the Twilight Druid for not giving you something that lets you make a zombie, like Finger of Death. But Etherealness works, right? It's, your Mastery of Death allows you to tread the paths used by ghosts and other spirits. I don't think Druids typically get Etherealness, and it's once per short rest, so that could be very useful. I really like this subclass, too. I don't know why it didn't make it in. It seems like a cool concept. I don't really think it needs much adjusting. I think you could probably just port it in as it is, and I think you'd have a really fun time. Maybe this is the druid that I've been looking for that I can play and really truly enjoy. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Number 1. And lastly, number 1 is probably one of the biggest shockers to me that it didn't make it in, because to see it, we need to go back to both 2016 and 2017, because this was released in 2016 in an Unearthed Arcana, and then it was republished again in 2017, and that is the Theurgy Wizard, right? It was released in the non-divine faithful Unearthed Arcana, which was alongside the Seeker Patron Seeker Patron Warlock. It was released there, and then when they did the Wizard in 2017, where we got the War Magic, which I don't particularly like, and the War Magic was the one that made it into Xanathar's. Theurgy Wizard didn't, and this is something that's been around for a while, like a concept of a Mystic Theurge, a Cleric Wizard. The only reason I can think it didn't make it in is because it's too good, which might be why. So, when you choose this tradition at 2nd level, choose a domain from your chosen deity's list of eligible domains. So flip to the back of the player's handbook, look at it, right? So if it's Ilmater, it's life domain, right? The knowledge and light domains are especially appropriate choices for a theurgist. It says that it give you more than that. Choose a domain from your chosen deity's list of eligible domains. Beginning when you select this tradition at 2nd level, whenever you gain a wizard level, you can replace one of the wizard spells you add to your spellbook with a cleric domain spell from your chosen domain. This must be of a level of which you have spell slots. If you add all of the domain spells to your spellbook, you can subsequently add any spell from the cleric spell list instead. The spell must still be of a level that you have for which you have spell slots. Any cleric spell you gain from this feature is considered a wizard spell for you, but other wizards can't copy cleric spells from your spellbook into their spellbooks. So that's a really cool concept, right? So this gives you, depending on the deity that you pick for this, you could pick a really cool, get a good set of domain spells. This would be a great opportunity, right? You're a wizard, you're going to have a ton of spells, so you might want to pick like the knowledge domain, or you might want to pick the life domain, right, to get access to healing spells you won't typically have as a wizard, because you're going to want to try to get stuff you can't normally get. And then again, if you add them all, then you could just basically have the entire cleric spell list and the entire wizard spell list. That could also be intimidating. That might be part of the reason why it wasn't added. And then you also get Channel Arcana at 2nd level. You start, basically, this is giving you essentially Channel Divinity. You gain the ability to channel arcane energy directly from your deity. You start with 2 such effects, Divine Arcana and Channel Divinity option, and the Channel Divinity option granted at 2nd level by your chosen domain. So whatever domain you pick, you get their 2nd level ability. You employ the Channel Divinity option by using your Channel Arcana ability. When you use your Channel Arcana, you choose which effect to create. You then must finish a short or long rest to use your Channel Arcana again. Beginning at, when you use it, it uses your wizard spell save DC. Beginning at 6th level, you can use this twice between rests, and beginning at 18th level, you can use it 3 times between rests. When you finish a short rest, you regain all expended uses. If you gain additional Channel Divinity options from your domain, you can employ them using your Channel Arcana feature. So that's cool, because not all classes have multiple options for Channel Divinity. However, this one says if you gain additional options, you can use them. So right off the bat, there are a ton of great options for this, right? So obviously you could choose to go some route, like say you could go life domain, right, to get the healing in that respect. But you could go Tempest domain to heal, or sorry, to deal maximum damage with your lightning or thunder spells. You're going to have access to a whole lot more lightning and thunder spells as a wizard than you are as a cleric. But you could also choose Trickery. And I've said it before, even in this video, that the Trickery domain cleric isn't great, but like the option to be able to cast from your duplicate's position is amazing when you have the entire cleric and the entire wizard spell list. Like, that's going to be a really useful option for you to move that around to do that. And then the actual Channel Arcana option that you get is the next spell you cast gains a +2 bonus to any attack roll you make for it, or its saving throw DC as appropriate. So you can use that at any time. You add 2 to the attack roll, or add 2 to the saving throw DC, or use your 2nd level ability from the Channel Divinity from the chosen domain, or the ones you get later on. At 6, you get Acolyte, or Arcane Acolyte. You gain your chosen domain's 1st level benefits. However, you do not gain any weapon or armor proficiencies from the domain, right? So certain ones, this could be really useful, right? Like Knowledge domain gives you, I think it gives you 2 skills and like expertise in those. I think the Tempest domain gets the reactionary damage when you take a hit. Very cool. At level 10, you gain your chosen domain's 6th level benefits. Your faith and your understanding of magic allow you to delve into your god's secrets. Very cool. And then at 14th level, you gain your chosen domain's 17th level abilities. Your academic nature and understanding of magic doctrine allow you to master this ability sooner than a cleric of your chosen domain, right? Because a cleric's top level ability comes at 17, and you get it at 14, which is really cool. And again, depending on what it is, right? Like if it's life domain, that's full healing. If it's Tempest domain, that's just flight for free when you're outside. The only reason I can think, honestly, that this didn't make it is because it's so good. I love clerics and I love wizards, and this is a combination of both. I would 100% love to play this in a campaign. I would have a blast with this. I love divine characters too, right? That's a big part of what I like to play, because I think it also gives the DM a good option to help if ever we need to re-engage in the story or need direction. I can literally pray to the DM essentially to ask for guidance, and they can give it to me if they really need to reset the path. But it's also a nice, I think for me it's easier to play, I think, a divine or a character that worships a deity, because like I have something for guidance, I have tenets to belong to, I have a church that I can rely on for aid, and like I had to have all of that, but I am also a wizard, which is just amazing. So again, I can think the only reason it didn't make it in is because it was too good. Sorry this video ran a little long, folks. I wanted to dive into each one of the subclasses individually. But hey, imagine if there was 10, there'd probably be another 30 minutes of content at the way this is going. So let me know what you think. Are there other... I'm sure a lot of you are going to tell me there are other subclasses that I didn't put on this list that you want. Like, I think the Satire Bard is one a lot of people like. I'm not really that impressed with it, but a lot of people like it. So let me know what you think. Again, as I stated throughout the video, if you have other top 10 suggestions you'd like to put out there for me, let me know. I have a running list, but I'm hoping to be rolling out some new stuff in the future to help allow some folks to help dictate what comes out, what videos come out when. More to come on that very, very soon. So, yeah, again, I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you're all staying safe and your family and friends are all, you know, making it through this. I know it's hard. You know, I mean, you know, it impacts us, right? I mean, I had a Tuesday game that was every day in person. I built a whole like studio to play games in, and now that room just sits dormant because we're all have to play online for right now. But hey, at least we still get to play. So again, I hope everything's going well for all of you out there. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I really would appreciate if you do it. The numbers are constantly on the climb, and that's amazing. Your support is phenomenal. The positive comments and everything you guys send really just help keep me, you know, trying to get out there. And given the climate that we're in, I'm trying to make as many videos as I can without getting burnt out, to keep giving you folks something to distract yourself from the craziness that is the world right now. So anyway, I'll see you next time.